Usually, my target audience is my twin brother. He has zero background in linguistics and will probably never draw a syntax tree. But he's very intelligent and also quite curious. If a video promises to answer an intriguing question he's never considered before, he'll watch it in its entirety and learn something new. Why am I telling you about my brother? Because this time, Ben, you're not my target audience. My target audience is you, Agma Schwa, herald of awe and vomit, keeper of the cringe, ringmaster of the cursed Conlang Circus. If you're not Agma Schwa, skip to this timestamp for the translation. Or you can still watch the video, I guess. If you're new, I'm really sorry, but be warned that there will be trees. Lots and lots of trees. Because I didn't make a cursed Conlang. I made a blessed one. In Abrahamic religions, angels are supernatural beings in servitude to God. They're often depicted as winged boys, but they take many different forms. Regular dudes, four-winged multi-headed chimera, flaming wheels covered in eyes. The classics. You can watch Hojolaga's video for more details. Now, I'm not a theologist, so I'm not trying to make any religious claims in this video. Instead, I'm creating a fictional constructed link lovingly inspired by the first sphere of Abrahamic angels, Ophanim, Cherubim, and Seraphim. But for simplicity, the language is just called Seraphim. In English, at least. To the speakers, the name is far more complex. Although even that monstrosity of a word is technically ungrammatical. See, without double syntax, 4D V to T to C movement, and 7 simultaneous mouths connected to a single non-Euclidean mind, this word is ungrammatical to the Seraphim. In case you can't tell, there's a lot going on in this language, and I think the easiest way to explain it is to walk you through a translation, from meaning to syntax to phonologo stuff. I'm only going to translate 3 sentences though, because holy heck, this language is hard. Now, to begin, let's start with the English. To make it easier, remove all the articles, verb agreement, and tense, not aspect. Also, change that Englishy adverb to an expletive. Take these new sentences and add these cases. I won't explain all of them, but noteworthy additions are the construct and absolute case, which correspond roughly to the construct and absolute nouns in the biblical Hebrew construct state, which corresponds roughly to chained genitive thingies. Absolute case shouldn't be confused with absolutive case, a morphosyntactic case that marks the patient. But ergative absolutive is restricted to embedded clause. Marked nominative, unmarked accusative is the norm in main clauses. Easy. Let's make the complementizers explicit, then add these cases we were talking about. This is what the sentence looks like with the appropriate case marking. We don't add cases to the subjects yet, even in embedded clauses. But these sentences are too Englishy, so let's gloss them. I'm trying to keep the glosses as faithful to the English syntax as possible, because things do get pretty messy. Next, add transitivizers from this charts, which basically turn a verb root into a transitive verb. That gives us these sentences. Notice there's some redundancy. Let's also make the verbs less idiomatic. While we're at it, the nouns should change too. We're mostly done at this point. Just gotta shuffle some of the modifiers. It's still SVO word order for now. Yippee, we finished the easy part, because this is just a list of the morphemes we need to continue. To actually build words, we need to put these morphemes in a tree. Here is tree 1. Notice that T and C are the only null nodes. Transitivizers have a bimorphemic analysis with the verb in high VP and the transitivizor in low VP. Here is tree 2. Notice that VPs marked with case have become non-finite forms, but the low VP keeps its argument. Also note some redundancy between case and transitivizers as I brought up earlier. And here is tree 3. Quite easy relative to sentence 2. But Babalingua, what about the split CP or spec VP or the nano syntax of... Oh, I hadn't considered that the theoretical linguistics has multiple theories. Guess you gotta comment below and boost my engagement. Because this isn't even a true syntax tree, you goof. It's just a tool for wrapping our feeble mortal minds around Seraphim words. See, none of these nodes are words. They're just morphemes that haven't been glued to each other yet. To build words, we need to identify the vocal tracts, plural. See, all Seraphim speakers have at least 7 voices. They don't need to be actual vocal tracts. Animal heads or disembodied voices will do just fine. Just have 7 voices emanating from 7 points in 3D space. These 4 mouths will be the primary articulators. The other 3 aren't important until later. To make it easier, let's label the 4 mouths clockwise. Top, 1, 2, and end. The mouths scope over one another in a hierarchical relationship as shown. Top scopes over everything, 1 scopes over 2 and 2 and end are sister nodes, but this isn't just a hierarchy of mouths, it corresponds to the trees we made earlier. Woohoo! Let's begin with sentence 1. Don't worry about movement right now, more on that later. For now, top mouth always starts at the top. Mouth 1 handles its next terminal daughter node. This time it's null, so mouth 1 stays silent. Mouth 2 handles the terminal node immediately beneath it, in this case the spec TP. Again, it's null, so mouth 2 remains silent. End mouth is up next. Unlike the 2 before it, end mouth does not pronounce a terminal node by default. Because it is the last mouth, end mouth must indicate that there are many nodes to come. Instead of pronouncing the entire rest of the tree, end mouth produces a prophrase. It's like a pronoun or a variable for the entire phrase. There we have it, the structure of one Seraphim word. All these mouths speak at the exact same time, but if you know which mouth is which, you can figure out the structure. For now, we're just going to stick to the syntactic structure because the phonology and orthography are an absolute nightmare, and if you have to do both of those at the same time, you're going to cry. Now, let's continue down the rest of the tree. Top starts at the top again, but it can't pronounce another sentence starter. Instead, it pronounces a prophrase that agrees in lexical category with the previous one. Mouth 1 and 2 get some more action too. This time, their nodes aren't null, so they get something to pronounce. Aspect for mouth 1 and negation for mouth 2. End mouth pronounces a new prophrase. The last one was a T prophrase, this one's a V prophrase. So far we have 2 words and the end of word 1 agrees with the beginning of word 2. So, if you shuffle these words, a listener still knows what the sentence means, but there are restrictions on how you shuffle them that you'll see later. So that means on top of the word internal syntax, Seraphim has even more syntax. Word internal syntax will be called microsyntax. Word external syntax will be called macrosyntax. Easy. Back to the tree. You should be getting the idea by now. These 2 begin with V prophrases, so they have to stay in the same order. This one begins with pro and P though, so it can still shuffle, even if that splits apart the case and the noun it modifies. Heck to constituency! Remember kids, the microsyntax tree is actually just semantics, so all that matters is that the meaning comes across in the end. The final word is easy. Mouths 2 and end are silent. And we have the 6 words of the first sentence, or 4 depending on your analysis. But word order isn't completely meaningless. If a word is earlier in the sentence, you're making a claim that the morphemes are more active. This isn't just a topic thing. It's often closer to animacy and can completely change the meaning and the argument structure. Microsyntactically, a sentence could read, "The man ate the cheese." But macrosyntactically, fronting the macro word containing the cheese, morpheme would read, "The cheese caused the man to eat it." It almost has a causative meaning. It's kind of like Navajo if the word order determined animacy instead of agreeing with it, but kinda. There's still more. Remember, the final 3 voices? They may not build words, but they do sing constant praise to the Holy Trinity, or blaspheme in the case of the Satanic dialect. This praise actually plays an important phonosyntactic role. While a macro sentence is being articulated, the 3 voices sing in one of 3 languages: Biblical Aramaic for far past or gnomic, Biblical Greek for near past, and Church Latin for non-past. The internal tree still matters. If you mark a word for tense, all of its constituents are tensed in the same way and remain unmarked. But tenses can stack for more complex meaning. In this case, the lack of understanding begins in the far past, extends to the present without ending because of the word internal imperfective marking, while the appeal of Agma Schwa is a gnomic truth. By the way, negative words are always marked and their immediate constituents are always unmarked. Because we're adding another layer of aspect, this adds a second tree to play with. And remember, each word has internal syntax that's really hard to track without the whole word abstraction we did earlier. That's all the grammar we need for now. Let's finally talk about how to pronounce these words. Syllables are pretty simple. At minimum, a syllable must have a vowel and a consonant. The consonant can be at the beginning or the end as long as the two vowels don't touch. At most, you can have two consonants in the onset and one in the coda. Also, any consonant can be syllabic symbol, right? Except not at all, because all Seraphim phonemes are full words in biblical Hebrew. Except the words themselves don't matter too much. What matters for the phoneme is the word's gematria value. See, gematria is a cipher that turns words into a number. There are many different versions, but Seraphim uses a slightly modified version of the Mispar Hetrechi cipher. I don't know if I pronounced any of this right, but I'm trying my best. Every consonant has a number. Add all the consonants in a word. That's how you get 666, the gematria of Nero Caesar. In Seraphim, any word will do. It doesn't actually even have to be Hebrew as long as it obeys Hebrew phonology. I won't use actual Hebrew since I don't speak it, but a clever angel would select very specific phonemes to encode Hebrew prayers within their speech. The consonants are strings that add up to 1 to 10, 12, 13, 18, 20, 22, 24, 30, 40, 42, 50, 54, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 200, 248, 300, 365, 374, 400, 500, 600, 613, 700, 777, 800, and 900. If a spoken string does not add up to any of these numbers, use only the rightmost letter to calculate its phonemic score. So even though these two words have the same gematria number, they're different Seraphim phonemes. The right consonant rule also explained these phoneme numbers of no Christian significance. I don't know about other Abrahamic religions though. That's 39 consonants. Time for vowels. The vowels are always strings that add up to 1, 3, 15, 16, 26, 45, 86, and 314. There is one rule though. You can't use the name of God to achieve any of these numbers. It just doesn't seem respectful of Abrahamic religions to make the tetragrammaton phonemic. Maybe the fallen angel dialect has phonemic blasphemy, though I don't know. Each vowel is also contrasted based on 3 levels of brightness: bright, extra bright, and ionizing. This is often accomplished with glowing orbs near the articulators, but specifics depend on the specific angel's anatomy. So far, we have phonemic biblical Hebrew strings marked for brightness spelling out words spoken simultaneously by 4 mouths that corresponds to nodes on the syntax tree within a larger free word order syntax tree with potentially conflicting argument structure marked with tense by trilingual phonosyntactic singing. So how the hell do you write this language down? Phonemes are written as they would be in Hebrew, right to left. But the entire Seraphim syllable is written left to right. So how do we show which mouths they're coming out from though? Simple. List the morphemes like so, with the highest scope at top. Choose the one with the most characters and make it the core of the word. Then turn the other characters into diacritics depending on if they're above or below the core morpheme. The end result looks something like a Hebrew zalgo, and that's without the other 3 voices, which aren't typically written. Now for the actual first sentence. Here's a table of the words in order of pronunciation, and which mouth pronounces which glossed morpheme. Here it is with Seraphim words plugged in. And here are the Hebrew strings. Most of these are just random words that add up to the right number. A real angel would just effortlessly weave entire prayers into their phonemes. Here are all the words we need, in order and in the proper orthography. Great, we're done, right? Not so fast. Don't worry about that's all the grammar on that night for 4D V to T to C movement. That's right, it's finally time for 4D V to T to C movement. See, Seraphim can traverse time as easily as we can move forward and backward. Why rush movement before spell out when you can move nodes after the word has been pronounced? Fuck, this is gonna be hard. You'll need that beautiful sentence we just made, the mini internal syntax tree from earlier, and the grace of all things holy to guide your hand. Referencing the starting tree, find A, the lexical verb, B, the TP, and C, the CP. Remember, in spellout, the mouths corresponding to null nodes didn't actually say anything. So when we move the verb to the T position for aspect prefixing, then the C position, the mouth remains closed, but the appropriate sound appears in front of the mouth. Editor Babalingua here. Because of the way Seraphim trees work with 4D movement and prophrases instead of elision, well, complement clauses give us nouns containing CPs, and those same CPs contain those same nouns. We've accidentally made infinitely recursive complement clauses, and it's an easy fix, but it's cursed, so I'm keeping it. We've finished all the hard stuff. Time for the final translation. Except I'm not using the orthography because this pre-movement sentence took 2 days to finish, and I don't have time to redo it with movement and write the other 2 sentences. Instead, I'll model the angelic voices like so. And I will not use actual Hebrew. I will use strings of consonants that add up to the right values separated by a schwa. And I'll certainly make mistakes because I'm recording this on the day the submission is due and do not have time to check anything. That was hard! If you're new to this channel, I do apologize for this incredibly cursed video. My next video is going to be way more approachable. Maybe it'll be about wugs or the plural of moose or something. Oh, and the clone videos, I'm still working on them. The next one on Giap Biap culture is going to be my longest video to date, out sometime this December. I'm going to go take a nap now. Watch some of the other entries. The ones I've seen so far are superb. See ya!